Welcome to Leadership and the Tarot. My name's Nicole. I'll be your guide on this journey. I'm so glad you've joined us. Let's jump in. Welcome back, friends. Or if you're here for the first time, welcome. Let's go ahead and jump in for the week. So, our card this week that inspired what I'm reading is the Wheel of Fortune. And so this week, after pulling the Wheel of Fortune, I was called into reading two books around this topic of what the Wheel of Fortune invites us into. And the first book is Who Moved My Cheese, which is a very short story told in a narrative format about change. And the second one is Diagnosing and Changing Organizational Culture based on the Competing Values Framework. A very different book than Who Moved My Cheese, but has equally important and really valuable tools that can be used when we're talking about change. I think both of these books, both of these resources can be useful, meaningful, and really supportive resources for people who are finding themselves leading change in their groups, in their organizations, and are looking for a little bit of support and ideas into how to bring people along in this concept of change. So with that, let's go ahead and jump into our card for the week. So our card for the week is the Wheel of Fortune, which is the 10th card in the Major Arcana. The Major Arcana are our major life lessons. Along our journey in life, these are these big moments, these big lessons that we are invited into, likely again and again throughout our journey. And the Wheel of Fortune, which you are probably guessing now based on the books, is about change. And that change is cyclical, and that it is constantly happening. That there are times that we're feeling really in flow and ease, and that will change, and that we will find challenge. And that's in the same way that we may find ourselves in moments of challenge, but that we will then move into flow and ease if we trust and we move along with change. I think what we find, in particular when we're talking about leadership and change in organizations, is that many people, including ourselves, are very hesitant and cautious and afraid of change. And the Wheel of Fortune here is saying it's going to happen. So what will you do in it? Will you resist it? Or will you go with the flow? Will you understand that this is a natural part of our human condition, a natural part of nature? We think about the seasons. We think about just all of the cycles, the life cycles that we see in life, that it is ever present. We are changing at every moment, as is the environment around us. So, what does change mean when we're talking about leadership? And how do we cultivate it? How do we support change in our organizations and with the groups? And then most importantly, knowing that these changes can't occur without personal change, without me changing along the way. I think sometimes in organizations when we're trying to do big change initiatives, what we'll do is we'll focus so externally on all the things that need to happen outside of us that we forget that if we ourselves aren't willing to change, and I don't mean change as in change the person that you are. Often what we're talking about in change is changing our attitudes, changing our actions about towards things or in ways that we are showing up in the world. So if we want to see collective change, it really starts with, or maybe not even starts with, but needs to be bolstered by and supported by individual change. There's this great quote by Maya Angelou, which is, if you don't like something, change it. If you can't change it, change how you feel about it. And what I love about this quote, that it's not about apathy. It's not this concept of like, well, I can't change it, so whatever. What it is, I read into it, is inviting us into saying, okay, this thing is happening. I can't control or change that it's happening. So, what perhaps can I change my attitude about it? Perhaps I can change how I feel about it or how I see myself participating in it. And when I change my attitude and that I can go in and say, I think I might be contributing to it in this way, or maybe my having a need to control that or to have an opinion about how it is or isn't serving me, isn't serving my organization, isn't serving my team. So how would I feel differently about it? What would it mean for me to hold a different opinion about this thing? And that invitation to hold something different, to hold a different thought about it, might actually invite me into being part of that change, because all of a sudden now I feel more efficacious. I feel more informed about what I actually do have control over. And so then again, this is why I think it's so interesting with the Wheel of Fortune, is that it truly is cyclical. We're moving through these change cycles all of the time. And oftentimes to get back to the other side, it's not necessarily changing the whole system or changing everything. Oftentimes it's about changing how we are experiencing it so that we may engage with what we do have some control over and how we want to show up. And something that I really like about Diagnosing and Change Organizational Culture from Cameron and Quinn is that what it roots us in is that oftentimes organizational culture can be bolstered or supported by some evaluation, by some assessment to help us observe really what is happening right now. What is happening that we would benefit from understanding? And then guides us through a process of saying, this evaluation isn't the be all end all. It isn't just this is what it is and this is what it should be, and so now let's do it. What it says is, okay, here's some information for you. Now reflect on it. What does this mean for you? What does this mean for your team? What does this mean for your organization? Okay, now that you've had some time to make meaning of it, what do we do from here? What do we need to plan for? And then now let's act. Let's actually operationalize what we're talking about. Let's do something. And then again, in that cyclical way that it brings us back to, okay, we act. Now let's observe again. Let's evaluate. Maybe it's the same evaluation. Maybe it's a different evaluation. Maybe it's a more refined question based on the things that we changed. Okay, let's observe for it. Let's reflect on what we're seeing. Let's plan for the changes that are necessary so that we can flow with the change rather than resisting or being reactionary to it. Let's plan for it. Let's act. And let's continue the cycle. The cycle is from O'Leary's cycle, which is an observe, reflect, plan, and act. And it's actually a corkscrew model, which is this way of saying that we change, we're on this process, and we're getting more and more refined in what we want to change, how we want to change, and how we want to be showing up. So again, it's this concept of that change also needs some support. We having change processes can help people who are perhaps resistant to change feel like they know what role they play in the change and how important their contribution is. So when you think about it, what are the processes that you have for change, either in your life or in your work? How are you keeping track of, or how are you supporting this process? How are you writing down or noting what kind of changes you're seeing in your life? What place are you in? Are you just engaging in change and then just keep doing this acting space of like, I'm just going to keep changing, keep changing, keep changing? Are you holding space for observing and reflecting? Or is change just this thing that feels like unwieldy and out of control? So, in summary, what does the Wheel of Fortune remind us of? Change is all around you. It is happening, whether or not you like it. And you have an invitation of how you wish to show up in that change. What intentional choice will you make about how you will support and participate in that change? And so much of it begins with an understanding of yourself and where you are. And when we're talking about organizational change, we're talking about where is your organization? Where are you now? And where do you wish to be? And how will you collectively move towards that? Always starting with yourself. If you're a person who has found yourself responsible for engaging in some organizational change and are looking for some support, some guidance, some coaching through that process, please check out my website. I would love to be part of that journey with you. Or perhaps you're part of an organization that's looking for someone to help guide and support your organization through some change. Yeah, also please head up my website. I would love to be part of that process in facilitating and supporting the community that you have created, the group that you are part of, in thinking about what kinds of change are you hoping to create in your work. Thank you everyone for joining. If you like this video, please hit the like button. Also, if this content is really resonating with you and you're finding this messaging to be meaningful, hit the subscribe button and hit the bell. That way you'll be notified when new videos are up. I'm so glad that you have all joined today, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye, friends.